In this video, we're going to go over the main differences between the R500 and the A610, which is the upgraded version of this R500. Now, both guns are LVLP, meaning that they can be used with smaller compressors in your own garage. Today, we're going to look closer at the A610, and the A610 is the newer version, and I picked this up for 75 bucks. Now, the R500 we've seen for 60 bucks, but for 75 bucks, I got some more options. Now, what you'll see is you'll get the 1.5 and 1.7 fluid tip, and it comes with the 1.3 in the gun. Now, the cool thing I like about it is it comes with the fluid tip, the needle, and the air cap as well. So that is a nice extra treat to have all of those in case possibly one of the air caps goes bad. But this gun can be used for anything from base, sealer, to primer with that 1.7. It's really nice. Now, it's going to come with everything you need with the gun cup and the actual gun body itself, along with the regulator. You are good to go right out of the box, which is great for a do-it-yourselfer. Now, the one thing I noticed is a nice finish on the gun. It's got a cool look and easier to clean than the R500. Also, it feels much better with the trigger. The A610 has a much nicer grip and the trigger has less resistance. Now, when it comes to setting up this spray gun, what you're going to want to do is get your fluid tip set at wide open. Like any spray gun, you'll back it out completely before it falls out of the thread. You'll pull the trigger, and then at that point, you'll turn it back in, and once it stops completely at the trigger and the knob, you know you're set at wide open. Now, of course, from here, you can do one turn in from wide open if that's what you prefer, but I always like to keep my guns at wide open, so we backed it back out. Your fan, you always want to keep at wide open. That's going to give you a nice fan. And of course, this air valve at the bottom, make sure it's completely open as well. This one just kept turning, but you could hear it click and you knew it would be at wide open. Something with cheap guns that I've experienced as well. Now, it also comes with an air regulator if you need, so you go ahead and pop that on. And the numbers are very big to read, which is something that I do happen to like, especially as I get older. My eyes are a little bit tougher to read those smaller prints. Now, here we're going to be using an PPS 2.0 adapter, and you can see it fits, but it's not the best fitting adapter. Possibly might be a better one on the market, but it did not leak at all. It fits perfect with the thread pitch. Now, today we're going to be working with this pearl white TLX. We're going to take it through all the steps of base, pearl, and clear coat. You can see here our fender we replaced, and we've already based and sealed it, but not pearled. So we'll be blending into the hood, and since we're painting this bumper as well, I took it upon myself, like I always do, to blend this fender. It doesn't take much time, and it's going to give a perfect paint match. Why waste our time trying to get a perfect blend? Now, I was really surprised with the A610 that the fan pattern was much bigger than the R500. I'm a big fan of big spray patterns, so it really helps out when we have the equipped big spray pattern on a cheaper spray gun. Something that I find on cheaper spray guns is a smaller spray pattern and is a big turnoff. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is get full base on the fenders and blend it to the hood. Now, I'm going to be putting some base at the front of the hood where there was a couple chips that I used UV primer. I'm just going to coat those with some base and then continue my blend into the door. Now, if your blend looks a little bit funny on the first coat of base, don't worry, let it dry. And if it's the right color match, it's all going to blend in once the pearl hits. Now, we gave a little time to Juan on the bumper cover, and for someone that hasn't painted a whole lot, he really liked how easy it was to paint. So in the hands of a somewhat amateur or beginner, it's really easy to use, and this is evidence right here. Now, after we have our base completely dry on the first coat, we're going to lay down our second coat. Now, in our system, only 2 coats is all you need. I don't need to do full base coverage on the actual hood itself, so we're just going to use the areas that we're going to blend, like the body lines on the hood, to help us with our blend. Now, it's important to note that it was around 70 degrees in the booth, and we used slow reducer, and our base just laid down completely smooth. Once our base was done, then it's time to get it cleaned out. You don't need to fully break down your gun. You can use this Naked Gun aerosol cleaner. Now, I pre-wiped the PPS adapter to get all the paint out, and then you could go ahead and clean it out and you're good to go. Now, at the end of the process, we'll completely break down the spray gun, but for now, in between coats, a nice good blowing of this Naked Gun cleaner will get it completely stripped and ready for the next coat. Now, if you guys are wondering and want to support the channel, make sure you check out the link for these spray suits. You'll find them on the link in the description, the Paint Society Colad spray suits. They're amazing. Now that we're laying down our pearl, I'm going to completely base the whole entire hood with the pearl. This is going to make everything pretty much even. And I know you might be concerned that the pearl might not cover as much on the base and cover too much on the existing clear coat, but this is just not the case. It evens everything out nice, and we have no issues when it comes down to clearing and color match. So I always suggest, if you're doing a similar situation where you're blending the fenders, just give one full coat to the hood and possibly one more if you need it. We ended up putting 2 coats of pearl on the whole entire vehicle, and that's all it needed for this particular color, and we were good to go. You can see that the blend here in the door is flawless, and it will be perfect once clear hits it, going over the whole entire hood. It has a nice beautiful sheen, and we have kept our paint away from the edge where it meets the door. Now this gun is really proving itself, but can it clear? That's the most important part here. We've taken it through all the stages of base, pearl. We can see the fan is about 8 to 10 inches at its max, and that's pretty impressive for a cheaper spray gun. Now, one thing that you're going to find in a cheaper spray gun is that those cheaper spray guns do run a smaller fan, and I've seen that with the Iwata Kiwami and the R500 as well. Now, on your first coat of clear, I am going to lay it down, but not too wet. I am at around 70 to 80% overlap on the sides, and then I'm going to change it to around 85 to 90% overlap on the flat surfaces. You can see that we're really just knocking down that clear coat. Now, if you're interested, you see that yellow taped cup. Well, that's because sometimes paint can flake off. Now, especially on white, you'll find that paint likes to flake off of your cup or anything and land right into the white paint, and white paint is going to show it a lot more than any other color. Now, as we're moving along, we're making sure that we don't have any dry spots, and we're making sure that everything is completely wet. Now, I can't tell you exactly what the pressure is because I didn't even look at the pressure, but I would suggest it's probably most likely around 25 psi. Well, the truth is, I actually ended up using one of my older regulators because it already had the air adapter on it, and you can't even read this regulator. Some people will look at pressure, some people don't. Now, looking at this video, it looks a little bit funny because it looks like we're really close to the panel, but that's just the zoom of the actual camera itself, giving that optical illusion that we're about 1 inch away. But we're probably around 3 to 4 inches. Now, you have a couple options when it comes to spraying paint or a clear coat, that if you're going to go fast, you need to go a little bit closer, but if you're going to go slow, you can increase that distance a little bit more. Honestly and truly, it's totally up to the painter what you want to do. Sometimes I'll go fast on the first coat and close, and sometimes on the second coat I'll back it up. But one thing that you need to follow is on your flat panels, you're really going to need to lay it down. If you don't lay it down on your flat panels, you're going to notice a lot of orange peel. That orange peel is really dry spray and not enough material on the panel. Now, when it comes to laying down the side panels like your doors, those are the areas where you need to actually get it wet enough, but not too wet because it will run. You'll notice on most cars that the flat panels don't have orange peel, but you'll notice them more on the side panels. That's because from the factory and as painters, you have to lay it down smoother on those flat surfaces. And that's just what we're doing here. It might seem a little bit scary, but sometimes you have to go back and touch up areas like I just did. But make sure you're watching what you're doing and watching what you did as you spray. It's hard to go back and touch up something after the paint has dried for even 1 or 2 minutes, because you'll find a nice glossy spot where you did the touch up and dry all around. So make sure you're looking at the paint and staying consistent to avoid dry spots. Dry spots is a big problem, and going back and touching them up might not be worth it. It might be better sometimes to just go ahead, let it dry, and give it a little 2000. Once again, you'll notice on all of my videos and everything that I do, I'm always passing that door gap and then picking it up on the second coat. Now, for this gun, I'm really impressed, but why don't we use these paint guns all the time? As professionals, why don't we use cheap spray guns? Well, the big deal here is longevity. If I use this day in and day out, it might not have the longevity that one of the better spray guns have. If I use this in lacquer thinner or leave it in lacquer thinner all night broken down, it might not be the same. The rings might swell, the gun body might start to peel, who knows, but I've really heard complaints from cheaper spray guns that this is the main problem. A lot of my more expensive spray guns, the way that they're designed can really handle it. Now, I'm really surprised after 2 coats that this finish looks this good. I'm going to leave you with this finish, and you let me know in the comments how you feel about it. But this is a no buffer. It came out completely beautiful, and you're going to see this R500 and this A610 put to the test on some more difficult colors and see how good it does. But do I suggest it? Absolutely. Take a look at this finish. And guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it. It's just paint. I'll see you guys on the next episode.